Hi, everyone. We see you starting to file in here. We're going to wait just about 60 seconds to let everybody get settled. But in the meantime, media, if you have questions, you can go ahead and get in queue by using the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen. All right, we got a couple hands up, so we'll get started. We'll begin with Matt Porter, and then we'll go to Evan Marinowski. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, Don. Just curious where you project Grzelcyk's ceiling. Obviously, this isn't a bridge deal; it's a 4-year deal, and he, certainly has a bright future ahead of him. So I'm curious where you see that, how you would name his future.
Well, we're excited to have Matt signed for the next 4 years. We knew we were going to have him under contract, albeit through arbitration in 1 year, or we had been exploring for several months, trying to get him under contract, and it just took a while. But as far as Matt's ceiling, I think it's a little bit to be determined. Depends on the opportunity and how well he plays. Obviously, there's a vacancy in sort of allowing his offensive game to continue to grow, potentially with a little more power play opportunity. And again, it's player driven. I had a lot of conversations with our coaching staff about where they see the player fitting in and how he affects our transition game, his ability to move the puck, our D zone exits, and the rest is up to Matt to take advantage of what we think would be a pretty good opportunity for him moving forward.
Yeah, and secondarily, how far apart were you? Obviously, him filing for arbitration and everything, but you didn't get there. How far apart were you?
Well, obviously, we didn't. It took a while to find a landing spot. And there's a lot of variables at play. You've got RFA guys signing, you got UFA marketplace that people are trying to get a read on, and then projection piece moving forward. And the league has to get back on track with a schedule and in a flat cap environment for the next couple of years, and sort of projecting out where all the players fit and where they feel comfortable. Ultimately, it's a player's decision. So as far as how far apart we were, we had a gap. We had to bridge some things. We had to work at it, and I'm thankful to Peter Fish and Matt for working through it, and all the work that Evan Gold did, in a pre-brief situation, as well as working with the arbitrator lawyers. I think we understood firmly where the arb case may land, but then it's up to an independent arbitrator to make that decision. So you never know exactly where that's going to be finalized. And we prefer to pursue him on a longer term deal. We were fortunate to be able to get that done.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Matt. We'll go next to Evan Marinowski. Steve Conroy, you'll be on deck. Go ahead, Evan.
Hey, Don, thanks for doing this. You mentioned where Matt could, you mentioned Matt's ceiling. Where do you see him sort of fitting in the lineup next season and go forward over these next 4 years?
Well, I think he's proven he can play in really any different position on the left side. He's had consistent partners with Kevin Miller over a period of time. He slid in play with Brandon, certainly with Charlie in some offensive situations. It might just depend on the matchup what the coaches feel comfortable with moving forward. I think that his ice time has been fairly consistent, even strength over the last 3 years, and we'll continue to look at advantageous positions that we can put Matt into to help our transition game, get him involved in the offense. And I think the power play component is something that we do believe that he'll be able to continue to grow in that area. Is playing with some pretty talented players that he'll get that opportunity. They've proven that they can carry the weight of a power play as a group, and I think he'll be able to complement that. And there'll be other players that'll look for that opportunity as well. So again, it's always player driven, but we feel comfortable the way our right side is built now, and the depth and the different personalities that we have there, that Matt can play with any one of them.
Thanks, Evan. We'll go next to Steve Conroy. Go ahead, Steve. Fluto, you'll be next after Steve.
Hey, Don, as we see, as you sign guys, that cap space dwindles pretty quickly. Do you consider yourself, are you still kicking tires on any outside free agents, or do you think this is probably it from what you did with Craig?
Well, I mean, we continue to look, for depth opportunities or players that, if we're in trade conversations that we may have a hole to fill. So I really don't know. We're not. I wouldn't say we have anything imminent to put forth. We signed Greg McKegg from a depth standpoint and created internal competition as well. We have, as I've mentioned before, we have several players that are knocking on the door that we'd like them to see them continue to push, both in our forward group and our back end. So a little bit of a growth opportunity. And we still have to figure out how the season plays out, but we're comfortable at some point in time. We're going to get up and running, and our guys will be ready to go. We felt all along that we were going to need some internal growth. And as far as the cap space, I think we're in a very comfortable position to continue to finalize our RFA guys that we have to, and look for other opportunities that we may be able to pursue otherwise.
And where do you stand with Z? I know he said that they're in no rush to do anything. Is that holding you up at all?
No, we've again communicated consistently with Zdeno and Matt Cater. We're just waiting for him to initiate what he'd like to do moving forward, and so I feel very comfortable allowing that to take the necessary time. And let Zdeno make his own decisions along that rate.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We'll go next to Fluto. Jimmy Murphy will go after Fluto.
Hi, Don. Two questions. Just first of all, on Matt, had you guys exchanged briefs?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
We exchanged tomorrow morning.
Okay. And then secondly, just based on getting Matt under contract and then where David and Brad may or may not be able to start the season, is LTI at all in the cards for you, or just given the situation, is that something that you prefer to stay away from?
Well, it's always an option for us. I don't suspect that in Brad's case that, unless he has a setback along the way, and indications are that he's doing very well in the post-surgical rehab. So I don't expect him to have any setback, and he should be ready to go. And David's is just a matter of the timeline. We expect, depending on the season, when it starts, that may dictate how much time, if any time, that David Pastrnak will miss. Again, we have to make sure that the player is healthy. He's coming off of a situation where he had to have something repaired, and he feels so much better as a result. And he's in the early stages, but moving along very well in the rehab, and we're very comfortable with where he's going to be coming out of it. And he could be much better off and pain-free in an area that was giving him discomfort. And we don't expect him to miss a lot of time, but again, that's predicated on when the season actually does begin, and we still don't know that. But I think we have depth on throughout the lineup. I mean, you miss star players, your lineup's affected, but we feel comfortable that we'll be able to plug holes if we need to.
Thanks, Fluto. We'll go next to Jimmy Murphy. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Hey, Don, how are you?
Good, Jimmy.
Just wonder if there's any updates on Carson Kuhlman or Zach Senyshyn with their contract situation.
Yeah, those are both ongoing. We've had continued talks with them, and I don't think they're far off from being resolved. And Jimmy, if you don't mind, I'll take a step back 1 second and complete those questions as far as the LTI. As I said, it's always an option. We don't necessarily foresee we'll have to utilize it, but not unlike last year and the 16 or so other teams that went through the season, injuries affect your lineup, you may have to utilize that opportunity. I apologize for not finishing that answer.
Cool. And then my other question would be, I'm looking around the league at some of the free agents, unrestricted free agents that are out there, and some older guys still out there that maybe, if the climate wasn't what it is right now, wouldn't necessarily be out there still. Do you see a trend right now where kind of, with all due respect, maybe middle tier players get a little phased out because of the economic climate?
Well, I think the squeeze is there, regardless of whether or not you want to start at the top, bottom, or middle. I think every player and every team is being affected. I think when the flat cap was announced for this year and the subsequent years moving forward, that we knew there was going to be a squeeze. And player movement at times indicate that teams just have to loosen things up, and other teams are not able to loosen things up. So those make great opportunities for each and every one of us to continue to explore. As far as the players that remain, some very, very good hockey players that'll help some teams, and they may have to look at different situations where it's a replatforming. And then you saw a player sign the other day with Ottawa that got a longer-term deal. Every player has to analyze themselves and where they fit in the marketplace and where they're comfortable and what the conversation they're having with the teams.
Thanks, Jimmy. We'll go back to Matt Porter. Last call for questions. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. Don, just curious, given Atlanta's situation with the ECHL, what, I mean, are you in a position where you have to kind of decide where players at that level, may go, goalies and whatnot? Do you have something lined up there, or is it still too early to tell as far as an affiliate goes?
Well, there are a lot of balls in the air with regards to player assignments and what the league will govern from that angle. John Ferguson's done a good job of communicating with some East Coast teams, and we have something that we do believe we'll be able to pursue as a result of Atlanta deciding not to open. So we feel like we're in a decent spot there. Obviously, nothing's resolved, and there's a lot of things to be determined between now and when all of them start. But we have explored and talked with conceptually with some of the players, but again, the league has to weigh in as to what options we're going to have from player assignment standpoint.
Gotcha. And then my other question would be, do you have a ballpark of when the league wants to decide on a season? Like, is it the type of thing where, okay, let's talk again in a month, or all of that? Is there that kind of ballpark date where, you kind of need to know, okay, this is not happening January 1?
Well, again, that's a different area code. You're going to have to try the New York area code on that answer.
Sure.
I get myself in trouble to speculate on anything. I know we have a general manager's meeting coming up towards the end of this month. Maybe we have a little better idea, and they'll initiate communication on that regard. So I will hold off any comments on and speculation. And then it's a matter of, we do all understand how long training camp generally is, and I think it'll always sort of revolve around that. I think they did a great job of allowing the proper time for the players to get back and get back in shape to prepare for heading to the bubbles. And I think we'll continue to do so. The communication between the league and the players will dictate exactly how long, but it'll always be long enough to allow the players the proper time to prepare.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Don, for joining us, and thank you for the media joining us as well. We'll send out an audio and transcript of today's call later this afternoon. Everyone have a good rest of the weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Donnie.